youth, MMDA officer, and a traffic violator. A traffic violator. A traffic violator has been caught by an MMDA officer. But then, as an escape for the punishment, the violator gave them a certain amount to the MMDA for them to be to escape to the consequences that might be punished there. Now, so and then in return, there will be allow them to run away to the consequences and not be punished by the Lord. Now, regarding that context, we believe that maybe you will not escape the consequences. You will be feeling it. But the idea of lesser punishment is really detrimental, not just into the side of the victim, but also into the side of the perpetrator. Why and how so? But before I proceed upon this part of my case, let me first contextualize the debate onto the opposite side. Our clash is plain and simple. We are not against punishment being in the air, but we cannot accept the fact that it is achieved through victims' forgiveness. Because first and foremost, we say that, and the government side must concede to that fact, that mercy is a human perception. Maybe what is merciful to you cannot be merciful to others. So how can it make the debate more complicated? Because there is no assurance if the victim is really open for mercy or if the victim is really open for forgiveness at the first stage. So it will be like of an inconsistency. Like if there is two same cases and then one is being forgiven because the victim is very merciful at nature and one is not being forgiven, where is the equality of the judgment there, Mr. Chair? That's why we believe that the punishment mitigation must be under the provision of the law, but not the provision of the victims per se.
Do you agree that these victims are actually an integral part of serving justice?
Yes, we believe, and also we believe that it is also the part of a perpetrator. Now to further expand on that, I will further expand on that later. Now, before I proceed to my cases, let me first cite some problems within the government's paradigm. The government's paradigm gave you a really vague and faulty, like I said. First and foremost, they only told you about the one-on-one victim-perpetrator basis. But how about this, Mr. Chairman of the House? What about the perpetrator of murder? Who will be the ones that will be consulted? Because in murder, the victim is dead. So can you ask the dead? They didn't consider that. And also, what if a criminal or perpetrator is a politician and being charged as a case of betrayal of public trust? How will the forgiveness be offered? Why? By what? By plebiscite or something? We don't know. And second, and the third one is that what if a perpetrator has previous cases or multiple cases like estafa? We all know estafa doesn't only focus on one victim, but also it is more of a general or several victims. Now they didn't tackle about that. They only told you about the one-on-one victim perpetrator. They didn't consider their paradigm or their mechanism onto these kinds of cases, which is really problematic because justice doesn't only serve in a one-on-one basis, but it is also served even if it is 1 to 100 or 1 to 1 million. Now, before I proceed to my case, what will be the mechanism by the opposition? It will be first, regardless of how merciful or how open the victim can be, like, hey, just forgive it, let's give like 4 months or instead of 1 year. We will not tolerate that fact because the law is there in the first place, and the law has a concrete basis. If you do this, you are being punished for that, regardless of the opinions and views of the motivation that, hey, I must redeem myself. So the change most likely to happen inside the prison, not before going to the prison. That's why there is some existence of pardon. And if you are viable of a system pardon, then good for you because you have proved yourself. So that is what our integral part of a justice system. It doesn't only focus on the victims, but also on the perpetrator. Now, to further, now for my case, take a judgment. Law is temporary, and law has a public basis, and it is also blind. So, regardless if you are merciful or not, if you are being perpetrated, there's no sense that the law will come to you asking, will you forgive him or not? So that is what equal judgment is. And also, in equal judgment, you need to consider not just only the victim, but also the perpetrator. Because what the problem within the government side is, they only considered the victim once. But what about the perpetrator? Because we all know that a perpetrator being put inside the correctional is for him or her to change. But they didn't consider that. But we will consider it. Because without the initiative of one person that he made a mistake because he's been forgiven at the first stage, there is no assurance that he will change at the first stage. Because he can know that he can fool one's victim that through flourished words, through flower words, that, hey, I will promise, but there is no assurance because words are not really assurance. It's like action speaks louder than words. And we must prove that action speaks louder than words. Now, to further conclude